nyuma kela nyilelema bareka bonyala fo bonya kela nyilelema bareka bonyala fo barika 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 mogo jomabe jakite ye bonya kenye barika bonya wala mosebede tamanyo barika 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 mogo jomabe jakite ye bonya kenye barika bonya wala mosebede tamanyo barika 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 ditomo gonjo mabe jatinte ye bonya kenye barika bonya wala mosebede tamanyo fenti la jali tenye bolokolo na jali tenye mimbara dia neve ole la jali yenye sarama la jali tenye sarantana jali tenye mimbara dia neve ole la jali yenye nyuma kela nyilelema barika bonyala fo barika 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 mogo jomabe alasani jakite ye bonya kenye barika bonya wala mosebede tamanyo wakitiki la jali tenye fenti la jali tenye mimbara dia neve ole la jali yenye iyo jalia alale ka jalia da iyo jalia alale ka jalia da alami ka mansaya da alale ka jalia da alami ka famaya da alale ka jalia da jalia 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 kobaye jalia 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 kobaye Mbara jalilu ye, mbara jali wari batilu ye, mbara jalilu ye, mbara jali sani batilu ye, mbara jalilu ye, mbara jali minisirilu ye, wolumalu bang jali amakuku ye, jali ya gwansante. Manda jalilu le, mogo beni Hsieh de la Hsieh mogo beni Hsieh la mandangeli lule ja mogo beni kuru de la kuru mogo beni Hsieh la jalia 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 kobaye Thank you.
All right, all right. How's everybody doing tonight? Right on. Hey, guys, I want to give a special thank you to our guest, Boka Kouyate, for this incredible performance. Put your hands together. I also want to give a big thank you to the Garfield Jazz Ensemble that played for you guys out in the reception area. Yes. I want to give you guys a few minutes to get settled, enjoy the rest of your meals and drinks, and we'll be back in about 5 minutes to actually get this thing started. So thank you. Don't go anywhere. We will be starting here in about 2 minutes. Thank you. Check, check. Good evening once again, everyone. Hey! How's everybody doing tonight once again? I would like to take this opportunity to welcome everyone officially to the Northwest Justice Project's Jubilee for Justice. I'm so excited to share. Yes, thank you. Yes. I'm so excited to share this evening with you all. My name is Terry Hollimon. I'll be your MC for tonight. I am a black 50-year-old man, 50, with no hair. And I'm wearing a blue blazer, a black tie, and black trousers. We're asking all of our speakers tonight to provide visual descriptions of themselves as a way for us to be more inclusive of the community members who may be blind, low vision, or visually impaired. I'm so incredibly honored to be your MC here tonight because the mission that NJP does is so important that I feel so lucky to be included here, to be speaking to you about it, to be introducing the incredible people that are doing incredible work in our community here tonight. At this time, I'd like to offer a land acknowledgement. Gather this evening, it is important to us we acknowledge that we live and work in unceded, which means to say wrongfully appropriated ancestral homelands and terrestrial traditional territories of indigenous people who have stewarded these lands since time immemorial. I speak to you from Seattle, which is on ancestral lands of the Coast Salish peoples. I honor and thank Coast Salish peoples who continue to occupy and steward these lands. Please join me in expressing our deepest respect and gratitude for the indigenous neighbors near Seattle. These, yes. These include the Duwamish, Snoqualmie, Snohomish, Tulalip, Nisqually, and the Muckleshoot tribes for their enduring care and protection of our shared lands and waterways. We pledge to honor them and uphold their tradition of caring for this land and its people for generations to come. First and foremost, I'd like to thank you all for joining us here tonight. Justice in Action embodies NJP's advocates, staff, clients, and partners as they walk through the legal system together. True justice demands action. We're here because we believe in the power of legal aid to support community members to fight for their rights and to create a more just and equitable society. Northwest Justice Project assists people across the state with a variety of legal issues related to housing, public benefits, family safety, education, and consumer issues. Tonight, we'll be highlighting NJP's work to support housing with dignity, evictions, finding solutions to prevent foreclosures, and fighting unlawful evictions and housing injustice faced by low-income people. Northwest Justice Project helps protect people and helps them assert their legal rights to a safe and stable home regardless of race, gender, or sex. I'm looking forward to a wonderful evening with all of you, and I hope that you'll all be inspired to make a donation to support the essential work that's done by the Northwest Justice Project. At this time, I'd like to thank some of the sponsors that make things like this possible. We're incredibly grateful for the support of our generous sponsors, and we want to thank you for standing with us to expand NJP's reach and its impact. I want to recognize the following businesses for supporting justice, fairness, and equality. First, our advocate sponsor, Amazon. Yes, put your hands together for Amazon. Our partner sponsors, thank you to Biella, the Foundation, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Medijure, and Mutual of America. Direct your attention to our screens for our ambassador sponsors. Put your hands together for our ambassador sponsors. Next, we have our stakeholder sponsors. Our friends sponsors. And our supporter sponsors. Yes. Thank you to our supporter sponsors. And thanks again to all of our sponsors. If you are a sponsor with us tonight, I invite you at this time to stand and be recognized. Yes, if you are part of any of those organizations, stand and be recognized. The incredible work done by NJP could not be done without you, and I thank you once again from the bottom of our hearts. Tonight we've got a very powerful program highlighting NJP's fight to ensure just causes and outcomes for those who can't afford legal representation. This is essential work, and NJP cannot do it alone. I hope that you'll all be inspired to make a gift to help address threats to our clients' safety and stability, hold wrongdoers accountable, and challenge unjust laws. At this time, I'd like to welcome NJP's interim co-executive directors, Abigail Daquiz and Hickory Gateless. Put your hands together.
Well, good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Hickory Gateless. I identify with he, him pronouns. I am a white 47-year-old male. I have no hair, other than on my face, which I swear is for a good cause. Not tonight's, but another one. I am wearing a blue suit and delightfully orange shoes.
Good evening, I'm Abigail Daquiz. I am a 45-year-old Asian woman wearing a blue dress with a blue Filipiniana bolero. I have black hair, and I am here tonight with my co-ED.
All right. Well, we are so grateful to each of you for coming out tonight, taking your Tuesday with us to celebrate and support NJP's work, and to affirm with a like-minded, and I know we wrote this earlier, but it's come true, a very handsome crowd. And we're here tonight to show that access to justice should not be and should not hinge on a person's wealth or their income. That is the good hard work of NJP. So I'd like to take a moment to say thank you to some of you who have and continue to work with us and to work on your own to move our collective efforts forward. This work is much bigger than NJP. The need is much broader, and it takes all of us doing our individual, collective, and collaborative parts to make the change we know is possible for low-income people across Washington. We are glad to be in community with you tonight, to share space, and to re-energize around this collective work. Thank you to all of the executive directors who are here tonight and your teams for the work that you move forward in your missions. Thank you to all of our partners who work to drive our collective efforts forward. And also in the room are many former and current board members of NJP who give voluntarily of their time to move this work forward. And I'd invite you to stand and be recognized. We can't be here tonight without the people that work every day tirelessly at NJP, our staff. Thank you so much. You make the impact possible. Thank you for walking alongside our clients every day. To the NJPers in the room, I would invite you to stand and be recognized. Our greatest work is accomplished often by standing on the shoulders of giants, those who come before us, blaze the trail, and make room for the work ahead. Tonight we are blessed to have two such giants with us. And we now stand on their shoulders as we lead NJP alongside our phenomenal team of 320 people, doing the critical work to benefit the client community. These giants are Steve Pelletier and Cesar Torres. Go ahead, Steve. Cesar, you can stand up. Thank you. For those that don't know, Steve led our finance department for over 25 years. He made everything work with the dollars. He made them make sense. And Cesar has been our most recent executive director. Both of them just retired recently. And it is no surprise that after 17 and a half years together, they were both local and national leaders in their own right in civil legal aid. They worked tirelessly to build NJP from a small and scrappy organization into one of the largest legal aid organizations in the country and in Washington State. Today, NJP has 21 offices around the state of Washington, over 320 employees, and we have served over 1 million people. And annually, we're serving upwards of 30,000. That is in direct service, but this is in addition to the millions of people who access our online resources that are available, our self-help tools, the tools that people within the community doing the work as attorneys use, and the people that are needing the work as clients also use. And that is through our amazing Washington Law Help page, where you can go online and get the resources that you might need for the situation that's presented. Part of Cesar and Steve's legacy that they have left is that they have assembled this amazing team to protect homeowners from foreclosure, to establish a robust program serving low-income veterans, and they've established a robust, groundbreaking right to counsel program. Cesar and Steve, we appreciate you. We thank you so much for all you have given and all you have done for NJP and the community, for preparing NJP for the work ahead. Your commitment to legal aid is unwavering, unflappable, and emblematic of justice in action. So please, just give one more round of applause for these amazing leaders.
Thank you, Hickory. So tonight, we are here to celebrate, highlight, and support justice in action. This is not just a slogan. This, to us, it speaks to our core beliefs that the outcomes in a person's life, the right to fundamental fairness, and their access to the legal system should not be predictable based on how much money they have, or their race, gender, national origin, or whether they're living with a disability. Unfortunately, systemic and structural racism and other forms of oppression are baked into our legal system. We must actively work to dismantle these barriers to create a more equitable society where justice and fairness are accessible to all. So, alongside our clients, we fight. We fight to achieve just outcomes in the courts. We fight to ensure fair housing practices. We fight to free children and families from violence. We fight for vets to get their full benefits. And we fight to hold our lawmakers and rule breakers accountable to the most vulnerable among us. But we can't and we don't fight alone. We know that you're here tonight because you believe in this fight and you know it's necessary. You help us to realize justice in action. Access to safe and stable housing is one of the most critical basic needs, if not the most critical need, that must be met in order to avoid the cascading downward spiral that can flow from being unhoused, maintaining employment, staying safe and healthy, and living with dignity. We know this, it's in our news feed daily. Right now, there's only one affordable unit for every 5 low-income families statewide. Too many people are on a financial tightrope, and one crisis can put them at risk of losing their home. Here at NJP, in the first half of 2024, we've met this need. We've defended more than 1,300 individuals and families facing eviction, and we've helped more than 300 households facing foreclosure. NJP is committed to addressing the immediate needs of our clients while tackling the causes and consequences of housing instability. Tonight, you're going to hear directly from Krystal Jeffries, a client who was facing eviction who came to trust NJP, and with our help, became a whistleblower, aiding the Department of Justice and holding her landlord accountable. And you'll hear from one of NJP's talented and fierce housing advocates, Carrie Graff, who will lead a discussion with Jib Lobsons of Carney, Badley, and Spelman, and Allie Kingston of the Office of Civil Legal Aid. Housing instability is one of the tipping points that impacts family safety, access to health care, education, and more. Your generous donations tonight will be an investment in our communities to thrive.
And I know we've been up here talking a bit, but really to understand the power of the work that all of the folks who stood up and that are on our team, to understand it deeply and palpably, the best thing to do, as many of you know, is go right to the source. Talk to the clients, listen to them, listen to the attorneys working on the issues. They are the ones with that experience and expertise that understands and appreciates how important this work is. Tonight, we invite you to take a look at the screen and learn from them how this work is happening and what it actually is doing for the folks who are benefiting from it. So thank you.
There's probably anywhere between 80 to 120 lawyers at any given time at NJP whose work touches on housing in some way. Homelessness work, eviction defense, anything else that involves people's right to safe and stable housing. A big part of the reason that we do so much housing work now is because of Washington State's Right to Counsel and Eviction program. Right to Counsel notifies every renter who gets an eviction summons that they have the right to have a lawyer appointed, gives them a phone number that they can call to call the eviction defense screening line, get screened and get referred to a provider, and that's what Krystal did. She called that number, got sent to our Right to Counsel lawyers, and they fought her case and defended her and identified this issue.
Northwest Justice Project made me feel that there were still good people out there. They helped to restore my faith in humanity, that not everybody looked at low-income people as less than. I was getting evicted. Yes, I quit paying rent, but you would too if you had raw sewage up to your ankles in your apartment and everything ruined. Bed bugs, cockroaches. I had 3 dogs, I was sick. I had a lot of medical problems. Just because a person's low income doesn't mean they should live in filth. And for that to be a government HUD-approved building, HUD should be ashamed of themselves.
Northwest Justice Project helped get her eviction dismissed.
It was nice to have somebody believe me and actually take the time to look into what was happening.
Northwest Justice Project provides access to justice for these tenants who are victims of bad actors, landlords, property management companies, who think that they can get away with exploiting tenants who are below a certain income level because these tenants don't have anywhere else to live. And so that doesn't just happen in Spokane, that happens across the state.
A few months after I moved out, I received an email from one of the agencies that helps with housing assistance saying All-Star Property Management got over $16,000 using my name, saying that I owed money. I didn't owe a dime. I had a court document stating that. Northwest Justice Project made me feel safe to where I could confide in them and tell them anything about what was going on and not be discriminated against.
Krystal's former landlord had claimed rental assistance falsely for rent that wasn't due.
And this was during COVID, when a lot of property managers were able to access rental assistance for tenants who were not able to pay rent.
Partnering with the Department of Justice has been a huge benefit to Northwest Justice Project in dealing with the type of fraud that affects renters throughout the state. We've trained extensively on the False Claims Act, helping our lawyers flag these issues. The False Claims Act, which is where a person fraudulently receives money from the United States that they shouldn't get by falsely claiming a right to it. Krystal's case wouldn't have come in the door before. There wouldn't have been a way to help her. And since there is now with the Right to Counsel program, we're able to not only help her with her eviction, but also help identify and deal with this fraud that was occurring.
We were really involved in helping Krystal to bring out those facts that we could then put into a complaint that we then provided to the attorneys at the Department of Justice. There was more than enough to move forward, not just with Krystal, but with other tenants too.
We see organizations like the Northwest Justice Project as a critical law enforcement partner in our work.
Whether it's a $10,000 case or a $10 million case, we're going to pursue the case based on what is the impact to the community and how can we best leverage our resources to make the biggest difference.
We are able to partner with federal law enforcement resources.
Through the investigation, we were able to unearth evidence of dozens of other tenants who had been treated similarly.
Through that partnership, through Krystal telling her story, NJP coming to us to flag problems that they were seeing, we were able to build a federal case that resulted in significant settlement resolutions for Krystal, for the Northwest Justice Project, and for our office to show our community that we stand up for tenants and we're going to stand up for housing justice for everyone. This settlement is important both to send a message to landlords that we need you to follow the law. For landlords who are taking advantage of those programs, you will be held accountable.
The False Claims Act is a really powerful tool where we can recover not only the amount that was stolen, but also a penalty over and above that. There's also, under the False Claims Act, the whistleblower, in this case Ms. Jeffries, actually is able to participate in the recovery.
I never dreamed that I would get any money for it. That wasn't my intention. I wanted justice done. It's not a lot, but it's enough to where if I wanted to make a significant change, I can. I can put a down payment on a place.
I just want to express our office's appreciation for Ms. Jeffries. It's really difficult to come forward as a whistleblower. It takes a lot of trust and courage.
I am proud to be a whistleblower because we're getting back taxpayers' money. That money needed to be used for people that needed the help. Northwest Justice Project is there. All you got to do is pick up the phone and they'll listen to what you have to say. Doesn't matter if you're low income or not. You have the right to proper housing. You have the right to be treated with respect no matter what.
Good evening. My name is Hsieh. I am a 34-year-old black Asian male with short black hair, wearing a blue suit with a white shirt. I am on the NJP Board of Directors and serve as its secretary. I joined the NJP Board because of its dedication to providing quality civil legal aid throughout the state of Washington. As you saw in the video, NJP not only provides legal aid, but builds on partnerships within the broader legal community to fight for justice and fair outcomes in all respects. Tonight we have a very special guest with us. With me here on stage is our hero of the evening, Krystal Jeffries.
Wow. Wow, I can't believe this is happening.
So Krystal, thank you for generously sharing your story and joining us here this evening. I'm inspired by your strength and courage in standing up for housing justice, not only for you, but for everyone else. Your story shows us why each case matters and illustrates the impact that one person like you can have on the wider community. At this time, I invite you to share a few words with us.
Wow, this is a big thing here, I guess. Northwest Justice Project saved me, and they saved many, many, many low-income people like me. Without them, I don't even want to imagine, couldn't even imagine how many homeless people there'd be, how many families would be broken apart, and how the crime would rise. We need them to help the little people. I'm not a hero, they are. They're the ones who've stepped out and actually taken the time to believe in us and help. If anybody can help donate to keep the place going, that'd be awesome. Just open up your wallets. But we need to keep NJP going forever, because it's because of them that I'm not on the streets right now. And I know numerous other people that are not on the streets right now because of their help. So if you can, help them like they help us.
Thank you, Krystal. Thank you again, Krystal, for joining us and sharing your inspiring story. As you heard, not only from Krystal, but from Abby as well, since the COVID-19 pandemic, housing insecurity and instability has become one of the greatest threats facing our society. Some have even argued that housing instability itself is an epidemic. And the demand continues to grow, not only on NJP, but all of its partners. This is why we're calling on you to support our work with a generous gift tonight. True justice demands action. Right here, right now, everyone in this room can be an advocate for justice. Today, we are asking for your help so that we can continue to ensure just outcomes for those who can't afford legal representation. Your gift will empower NJP's essential work and transformative work, not only in the housing justice projects, but in all of its work. Donations from community members like you help to amplify our impact. Table host, at this time, can you please locate the table host packets on your table and pass out the donation cards and envelopes to your guests. For those individuals who wish to give online, you can use the QR code found on your donation card or here on the screen. At this time, we ask that you please give generously. And thanks to generous matching pool donors, you can stretch your gift even further. Every donation of $500 or more will be matched up to a total of $40,000. If you cannot make a gift of $500 tonight, consider making a monthly gift of $42. That's $500 over the next 12 months. But yet, a recurring gift of any amount is a powerful commitment to NJP's ongoing work. In fact, a monthly gift is so impactful that our matching donors have also agreed to match a monthly gift of any amount. And if you'd like to make a bigger impact of a gift but can't complete that transaction tonight, please use the donation card to let us know to follow up with you in the days to come. If you can, please consider making this transformative gift that will help NJP meet this moment to fight for justice during this unprecedented housing crisis. Your gift today delivers expert legal advice and representation to clients across Washington state, regardless of income, race, or gender. Provides a lifeline to help people avoid eviction and foreclosure, and this is one of their most darkest times and when they need the help the most. But it also helps to protect fundamental human rights of secure and stable housing. It helps community members assert their civil legal rights, and creates a more just and equitable society. With your donation, NJP will continue to provide quality legal services that have led to 81% of NJP's cases resulting to that have resulted to 81% of their cases being resolved with permanent housing being secured for their clients. Your support today helps to fight one of the largest social justice issues of our time. Thank you for your generosity and your support to NJP, not only being here today, but for your generosity and for encouraging those in your community to support NJP who are not here with us tonight. At this time, we will give you a few moments to make your donations. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dan, for those very impactful words that you shared with us. And thank you once again to all of our donors. Give yourselves a round of applause. Now, please take note, if your employer makes matching gifts, remember to check the box to let us know. Table hosts, please collect the pledge cards from your table guests and place them in the envelope that we provided for you. Please bring them to the registration table at the conclusion of tonight's event. Tonight, we have the opportunity to hear from a panel of partners and key collaborators with the NJP in our pursuit of justice and dignity in housing. I'd like to introduce our moderator, Carrie Graff. She's an NJP staff attorney. She's working out of the NJP's Olympia field office, and she has assembled an incredible panel for you all tonight. Please, ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Carrie Graff and our panel.
Thank you so much. It's such a delight to be here tonight. I'm a white woman, 45, wearing a maroon shirt and black suit. And I've been with NJP for about 7 years, and I've been a housing attorney for 15 years. Like Allie, I've only ever done housing work as an attorney. And it is just such a delight for me not only to be here, but to be here with two incredible partners of NJP's. Allie Kingston is the Eviction Defense Program Manager, as of today, at the Office of Civil Legal Aid. And before working at OCLA, Allie was one of the first attorneys representing tenants in Washington's Right to Counsel program. She brought incredible fight and brilliance to her role in trial courts and in appellate courts, protecting tenants' housing. She really set the tone for what Right to Counsel is today, and she continues to shape Right to Counsel now in her statewide role with the Office of Civil Legal Aid. And we're so lucky that she is bringing her brilliance and commitment to the Right to Counsel program in Washington and really creating a model Right to Counsel program for other programs across the country. Though I have to say, I do personally miss seeing Allie at work in court just destroying landlord attorneys. I'm also really thrilled to be here tonight with Jim Lobsons. Jim has been with Carney Badley Spellman for over 3 decades. He has a wealth of civil rights experience. He is sued to protect the rights of gay service members to serve openly in the military. He's worked to end the death penalty in Washington state, and he's represented the accused in the Washington State Supreme Court, I believe, multiple times. He's brought that wealth of experience now over the last 6 years to protecting the rights of people across Washington who live in cars and encampments. He has dedicated truly countless pro bono hours to these lawsuits across Western Washington. He has appeared in Aberdeen, Lacey, Burien, Seattle. He's partnered with NJP on many cases, but he has also taught us how to bring these cases, how to advance novel legal theories and strategies to fight for our unhoused neighbors. In my 15 years of doing this work, housing has never felt so urgent as it does now. But as overwhelming and daunting as housing issues can sometimes seem, I've also never felt more fired up about this work. And I feel so fired up about it in large part because of partners like Ali and Jim. Because of our work together, because of their work and dedication, we are seeing real change happening. We are seeing real relief coming to some of the most vulnerable people in our state. Change that I did not think was possible even 5 years ago. 2 examples of change that we are creating through our partnerships are first with Northwest Youth Services. They were supposed to be here on the panel tonight and couldn't make it, but we did want to highlight this case. Northwest Youth Services is a Bellingham nonprofit that had purchased a home in a residential neighborhood that they intended to use as a shelter for children aged 13 to 18. Some of the neighbors reacted with the kind of biases we often see people react towards homeless people with, and the neighbors sued to stop the shelter from opening its doors. NJP represented Northwest Youth Services. The doors of that shelter are now open. It's a remarkable achievement. And another case that I wanted to highlight, that highlights the work of our partners, is with the Seattle King County Coalition for the Homeless. NJP is currently representing Skitch in a lawsuit against the city of Burien. Burien is trying to drive out all of its unhoused residents, and Skitch and NJP are working together to stop that. Although that lawsuit has not concluded yet, it is already having an impact on the way that cities are approaching homelessness across the state. The Washington City's insurance pool has told its member cities that because of lawsuits like the lawsuit in Burien, they're telling their member cities to stop passing anti-camping, anti-homelessness laws because of these lawsuits. So I cannot think of a better fight to be part of or better partners to have in that fight. And so I want to turn to Jim now to talk about an incredibly impactful case that you did, Seattle City v. Long, which advanced a really novel legal theory using homestead rights, which many states across the country protect people's homestead rights, which means even if you owe money, your home cannot be taken away from you to satisfy those debts. But Jim, if you could maybe talk about the Long case, how you use that theory.
Sure. I know the Homestead Act, it sort of sounds like something that was on Little House on the Prairie and you stake out your homestead, but Homestead Acts exist in all 50 states, and they are designed to make it so that people don't lose their homes just because they owe money to somebody. So in a very general way, they say that somebody has a whole amount of debt, you can take a lot of money from them, but you can't take their house out from under them basically and sell it in order to raise money to pay off this debt. You can't make them homeless. And I am not the person who thought of this idea, Carrie. It was a very wonderful lawyer named Elena Garella who said, what about the Homestead Act? And I wasn't bright enough to think of it, but I was bright enough to run with the idea that she thought of. And the notion is that What about if you live in a car? Can it be your homestead? Why not? What about if you live in a boat? Lots of people live in cars now because they've been evicted from the housing that they can't afford they can't afford anymore. So the towing companies, which are who get rich off the backs of the poor, and it drives me crazy. It's no problem for most of the people in this room if your car is towed. You can go down the next day or that day to their tow lot, and they'll tell you, you owe $342 right away, and they will give you your car back, but it cost us that much to tow it and keep it for the last 8 hours, so give us that money, and I guess you can cough it up and get it back. But if you're living on about $350 a month or something like that, you don't have it. You can't get it. And if you can't get it, the law says that the towing companies, because they've been to the legislature and lobbied for these laws and got them, they have the right to put your car up for public auction. And if you don't pay it in 15 days, they'll auction your car off. Maybe your car, I don't know what kind of car you got, but whatever it's auctioned off for, they get to take their accrued fees out of it and pay it to themselves. So they have a big financial incentive to tow away as many cars as possible and then get paid for the work that they've just supposedly done. But if we could convince the courts that a boat or a car or a truck can be a home, then they can't do that. They can't seize and sell off somebody's home for the debts they can't pay to this towing company. And we were able to use that in Stephen Long's case, and it took 5 years, and we started in Seattle Municipal Court, and we ended in the Washington Supreme Court 5 years later, and they agreed with us that a car, or in Stephen's case, a truck, can be a home. And I just thought I would leave you with, or give you this sort of concept of what can happen to you if you're in well, how bad a thing it is. Imagine that you have a job where you work at night, which Stephen Long had. He worked at night in a janitorial service, and he was away at that job, working. Everything he owned was in his truck, including other tools that he used for other kinds of work that he did, painting and construction work, and all of his tools were there. All of his possessions were there, all of his possessions. And he went to work, and then he came back after work to where he had been living for the last 2 or 3 months with some other people who were living in vehicles, and his home was gone. And everything he owned was gone. Imagine you went to work and came home, whether it be day or night, and your house was, or your apartment was gone. And everything that you owned and kept in it was gone. And imagine that for the next 21 days, you slept on the ground where your house or home used to be. Imagine that you got pneumonia during that period of time because it was cold and rainy out. Imagine that you were fortunate enough to find a lawyer. Eventually I got connected into the case, but they were Columbia Legal Service lawyers in the beginning. And they got your vehicle, your home back before you lost it forever through one of these public auctions. And they helped establish the right that the towing companies can't do that. So that's what I like to do.
And Seattle v. Long is a case that I use probably on a monthly basis. Attorneys at NJP routinely use now to protect people's homes. So it's just truly just an incredible tool to have. I was wondering, Jim, where do you find your motivation to do this work?
Well, you know, you guys told me not to talk too much about religion or Jesus, but I am a lifelong Quaker, and it's a very important part of my life. It always has been, it always will be. There's not a lot of creed stuff you have to believe in order to be a Quaker, but I'd say our central belief is that there is that of God in every single person. which includes every single poor person and every single homeless and unsheltered person, and they're treated like crap. And this is an opportunity for me to put my faith into practice. So
and can you speak to what you value about your partnership with NJP and how it enables you to make a difference in addressing homelessness?
Well, I get to work with people like you and Scott Crane and Fadi Asaf, who couldn't be here tonight, I don't think, but I get to work with people who are also dedicated to trying to mitigate or eliminate or reduce the incredible wealth gap and power gap in this country, which is getting worse, not better. And you know, teams are always better than people working alone, and people, you work with teams, you get ideas from them, they get ideas from you, they have connections. You know, one thing I thought of was, I'm kind of curious, I didn't want to embarrass anybody, and I can hardly see out to the audience, but if you are a minister or a priest or a rabbi or have some position in organized religion or disorganized religion, raise your hand so I can just see how many people like that are here. Yeah, see, that's a couple, not many. Let me suggest that you have huge allies out there that you're not using. I have worked with ministers at St. Andrew's Episcopal Church in Brookings, Oregon. I've worked with Reverend Sarah Monroe in Aberdeen. I'm working with Pastor Mark Miller of the Oasis Free Church. Basically, you should not forget that there are a bunch of very left-wing people who are also religious and care a lot about eliminating the wealth gap in this country. And the churches are doing the work that the government is not doing, so.
And the final question for you is, what does it mean to be working with NJP in terms of assuring housing with dignity?
Well, I am back to kind of my faith and stuff, you know. I'll tell you that in Matthew, Jesus says, I was great when I was hungry and you gave me food, when I was thirsty and you gave me drink, when I was not sheltered and you gave me shelter. And his disciples say, what? When did we do that? And he says, verily, I say unto you, whenever you did it to the least of my brothers and sisters, you did it to me. And whenever I'm able to help one of these people, I feel like I'm following his teaching.
And I've learned so much from working with you, not just about creative legal theories or how to navigate the federal court system, but how to really meet people as human beings and let them know that they are wanted in their communities. And that's something I have really learned from you, is the importance of letting people know that they are wanted and they belong in their cities. So thank you, Jim. So, Allie, what motivated you to join NJP's work on right to counsel, and how has this experience shaped your understanding of housing law?
Yeah, thank you, Carrie. So before coming to NJP, I lived in Toledo, Ohio, which I moved to right after law school, sight unseen, had this wild idea to move to the Midwest. And I did all eviction defense work. And fast forward, the COVID-19 pandemic hit. And the courts in Ohio didn't close. They were still evicting people. And so I went to court every day in the middle of a global pandemic, and I watched people be evicted. And I thought to myself, this is not okay. Like, there has to be something that we can do about it. Thankfully, Toledo's city council president was probably the only liberal member on city council, and we worked together to write the right to counsel ordinance in Toledo that passed and is still implemented today. And so when I saw that Washington had passed right to counsel, I thought this is really ambitious to try to do this statewide. This was a lot of work to pass in one city. But I knew I had to be a part of it. I knew that this one is going to shape the entire system, not just for Washington, but for the country. And so I applied to work at NJP. They asked me where I wanted to work, and I said as close to Seattle as possible. And they said, Spokane, Washington. And I said, okay. I had never been, so I said, well, that has to be close enough. I now know it's a little ways away. But I moved out here because I really knew that this was going to change how we dealt with evictions, how tenants were treated. And what I've seen is Washington was the first state, but it's not been the last. Connecticut, Maryland, countless jurisdictions have followed Washington's lead in ensuring that tenants have representation when their home is being threatened to be taken away from them.
Since you are somebody who's been involved with Right to Counsel from its early stages, what changes have you observed in the legal system, and can you share a memorable case that illustrates the impact of Right to Counsel?
Yeah, so again, east side of the state. It was a very interesting start. You could tell that the landlords bar and even the courts were skeptical of this idea of right to counsel, and that the system didn't just mean that landlords automatically got their property back. A commissioner said to us that before right to counsel, it was like handing out writs like candy, which I just thought was disgusting when you're talking about someone's home. So my very first case actually in Spokane that went to a contested hearing, I had a client that had some severe health issues, and the landlord had just kind of decided that they didn't like my client anymore. And so they had come up with all of these lease allegations. And we went to the hearing, there was no proof, no one could testify, there was no proof of it, nothing that the landlord's attorney could produce. And so I stood up as the well-trained NJP attorney that I was, and I had case law, and I had my argument ready. And the landlord attorney stood up and said, Your Honor, common sense, tenant should be evicted, it's inevitable. And sat down, and I thought, did this argument used to fly? Like, this used to be okay. We won, my client stayed housed. And I think that was one of the many first original moments where everyone realized that right to counsel was going to be a shock to the system, that the status quo was no longer acceptable, landlords didn't just automatically get their property back, that the people who were being evicted mattered, and that we were going to take a people-centered approach. And so now what I see with the right to counsel attorneys throughout the state is they truly are just a barrier between injustice and their clients. And they're going to stand there and they're going to fight for them.
And I have to say, as somebody who remembers the bad old days before right to counsel and remembers sitting in courthouses with the one or two clients that I could take and watching the waves of tenants where the eviction writs were handed out like candy, and just the almost without words for the transformation, what it is like to go into those courts now and see, fighting and winning and people keeping their homes. So. In your current role at the Office of Civil Legal Aid, how do you see NJP's approach benefiting right to counsel implementation and low-income clients? What impact does NJP's approach have?
So I think what's unique about right to counsel in Washington, but specifically with the program at NJP, is that the right to counsel attorneys are embedded into this larger civil legal aid organization, which means when a tenant calls the eviction defense screening line and they get their appointed counsel attorney, that attorney has a whole team in their office of family law attorneys, benefit attorneys, attorneys that can do domestic violence work. And so when that tenant talks about all of the other legal issues they may have, those can be resolved. NJP takes care of the whole person. And so as we saw with Ms. Jeffries' case, that she shared, NJP was able to not only help her with her eviction, but her other legal issues. And I think that that really benefits the program here in Washington because we can see those incredible outcomes. I think we all know, right, that this system was set up to harm our client community. So by nature, what our attorneys are doing is rebellious, and it's incredible to watch when it's embedded in an organization like NJP.
And final question for you. What does it mean to be working with NJP in terms of assuring housing with dignity?
Yeah, I've thought a lot about this question. I think just at its root, it means that tenants aren't going through this process alone. They're not wondering what's happening to them in court when a judge is talking about all these legalese, which as attorneys, we barely understand what's happening. They're not alone in it. This is a very traumatic and scary event to have to go to court and to have someone decide whether you and your children get to return home that night or not. And so having housing with dignity is having that protected. It's having, if you don't have running water, having an attorney that fights to make sure that you have running water in your home. All of just those basic things, recognizing that housing is in fact a human right. And the right to counsel attorneys at NJP I am impressed with every day. And I doubt many of them are here because they probably all have court tomorrow morning to continue the good fight. But if any of you are here, I know that their senior managing attorney is here. I'm going to ask you to stand, and I want everyone to give you a round of applause.
Well, thank you so much, Allie, and thank you, Jim. It's just such an incredible pleasure to work with both of you. When I started doing this work 15 years ago, so much of this was just unimaginable to me. Even 5 years ago, I could not have imagined every tenant facing eviction having an attorney. I couldn't have imagined the incredible appellate work that's coming out of our eviction program. I could not have imagined NJP with somebody like Jim fighting in cities across the state for the rights of our unhoused neighbors with big, impactful lawsuits. I couldn't have imagined having a case like Long in my toolkit to fight for people in my community. But here we are, even in the face of this housing crisis, which is, I think, the most urgent crisis of our time. Change is happening. And I am so fired up to be fighting with Allie, with Jim, with Okla, with Skitch, with Northwest Youth Services, to be fighting with all of our clients and to be fighting together with all of you tonight. Thank you so much for being here.
One more time, give it up for our incredible panel. Just incredibly moved by the work that Allie and Jim and Carrie are doing out there to help fight this fight of the people that are out there struggling the most. Just incredibly moved. I want to thank you all also for believing in and supporting NJP's work. True justice demands action. And I want to thank you for taking action to support legal aid to help the community members fight for their rights and create a more just and equitable society. I'm inspired. This is truly justice in action. Let's give everybody that spoke here tonight a round of applause. Yes. I want to take this opportunity to thank you all for joining us here for this year's Jubilee for Justice. Talking about this work from the stage is powerful, but nothing compares to seeing it in action. Look around. You're part of an incredible community of people who share a passion for justice. I'm just completely in awe of everyone that's in here tonight. Thank you for your belief in this work and for coming out to support this amazing organization. Once again, I'm just incredibly in awe and honored that you would have me here to be a part of this evening tonight. Thank you to our volunteers and our table hosts. Thank you. And a very special recognition, too, for the Northwest Justice Project staff who put this thing together. Thank you. I want everyone here to pay attention to your table. There should be a really beautiful, colorful cookie in front of you. Please take that home. Don't leave it, because that means I got to take it home with me, and I don't need it. Also, where are my table hosts at? Table hosts, let me see your hands. Thank you for being table hosts tonight. For your service to your table, please take home the centerpiece that is on your tables. Those beautiful things. Once again, thank you all for being here tonight. Safe travels, and we'll see you all again here next year.